Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Here we are on the air. Pleasure to see you, young man. Oh, are we
Good.
off with a bad connection here?
I think our connection's okay. I can hear you okay. Can you hear me?
Wonderfully.
All right.
You're coming
I
in
had
loud and clear.
I had the intro music somehow teed up again. I had
Oh,
to turn it off. So we're good.
ah, yeah.
Well, what's new? It's what are we? First show in September.
Wow. What's new? I'm living the dream, my friend. I'm
Yeah.
loving. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Retirement is opening up a world to me.
Oh, really?
We took we took 3 classes on pottery.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to belong to a studio,
Uh-huh.
where you have the kiln and you've got the tools.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explore that world creatively.
That sounds
That's
fun.
Yes, yes. And I'm taking a course with the University of Wisconsin Extension
Oh,
on gardening.
oh, like a little master gardener type course, huh?
Exactly, exactly. But I'm not going to complete the master gardening certification because I don't want to go that far into it. But I'm
Yeah.
taking the introductory course, which is a full, academic semester, one course, and then I'll take another course that I see online and read
Okay.
a handful of books and be ready to up my game in the gardening realm.
Nice. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I just finished a spectacular book on meditation. Best I've ever read. Best
Really?
book on
That's a
meditation I've ever
pretty
read.
bold claim.
Yes, it is. Let me see if I have it here. Do I have it here or did I take it upstairs already? Yep, I put it away in the bookshelf already. It's called The Science of Enlightenment by Shinzen Young. And it's a
Shenzhen.
book that
Okay.
I've listened to on Audible 3 times, and now I've read it as a physical copy
Oh,
once. Um, and I'll probably read it again late next year. But it's going to play into our presentation today.
oh, good. Good.
Yeah, for sure. It has to. He's a guy who has meditated for nearly 50 years, like 46, 47. Got his PhD at the University of Wisconsin right over here,
Uh-huh.
which was at the time the preeminent Asian studies school
Okay.
in North America. Then he spent 10 years in a monastery in, I forget where it was at first, China or Japan, meditating.
Uh-huh.
He's fluent in Tibetan, Japanese, Chinese, and Sanskrit.
Wow.
And then concludes that with being dedicated to science.
Okay.
He's studied the science of enlightenment. He studied neurobiology, is it?
Uh,
I think so. Neuro, brain science, um, for like the last 20 years, 25 years. And he puts it all together into this vision, which is just like, ooh, ooh,
that's
yeah.
really cool. I
It's
just dropped
transforming the meditation practice without question.
I just dropped a link to that in our chat for anybody
Oh,
joining us.
I knew you would. You're that kind of proficient.
Um, yeah. So the science of enlightenment, how meditation works.
Yes,
Shenzhen
Shinsen
Young.
Young. Good
Okay.
Lord. There were two. And for whoever let me just forewarn you. There's about maybe 10 or 11 chapters in it. Two sailed over my head. I can't tell you. I can tell you kind of like the words that were written, but I didn't understand them. The rest of it was, you know, accessible.
Now, when you say you couldn't understand him, what is it too like existential? Still like a
Well, like I just said,
philosophical?
he's done all these years of studying all these languages and all these meditation practices and all this neurolinguistics, neurobiology stuff.
Oh, okay,
It just he just it got a little specialized.
okay.
It kind of like now your brain is going to do this.
Uh-huh.
If you're and I'm like, now if you've meditated 1,000 hours this year, your mind might start saying this to you. I'm like, well, I'm never going to meditate 1,000 hours in a year, so I'm not sure
Yeah,
if this
yeah.
applies. But it was just 2 chapters like that. You
You
know
know,
that.
meditating 1,000 hours a year, that's a part-time, full-time job.
Yeah,
20 hours a week. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not doing it. So, he's talking about the spirituality of gone.
Mm.
When something ends, notice the emptiness that is in its wake. Okay, so it's just kind of like I'm going to concentrate on what I can understand. How about that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I'm excited about life these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Getting to explore more.
you in our conversation about scheduling of this, were telling me, we originally had talked about doing this on Saturday, and you said, well, we're leaving the house at 8 a.m. or something earlier, maybe, and
Yeah.
driving to, I think you said Idaho.
Yep, yep. Sandpoint, Idaho. Beautiful place on a beautiful Lake Ponderay, for a soccer tournament. Yeah, yeah. For a soccer tournament.
And the soccer tournament lasted how many hours?
Well, it was two games, but they were just enough time apart where there would be no logical reason to drive all the way home because it's about 90 minutes each way. So there was a morning game and then an afternoon game. So
Right.
we left the house
How
at
many?
8. Just two games on Saturday. Two games on Saturday. And then there was about almost 2.5 hours in between the games. So, yeah.
Did
But
you
yeah,
have to go back on Sunday?
and then we went back on Sunday morning as well. So it was my daughter's team. They won both games Saturday, and then they nearly won the game on Sunday morning. Um, the other team pulled off a score in the last minute of the game to tie it, so it was a draw. And then they went back to face that same team that they drew with because they both had the same record, so they were in the finals together. So then we went to the finals game, which was later in the afternoon yesterday. So yeah, I spent all my weekend all my weekend days hanging out in about an hour and a half away in Idaho, watching soccer. So
And how did they do in that fourth and final game?
they lost. They got their
Oh,
butts kicked. Yeah, they're
oh,
it's hard those afternoon games. The conditioning, my daughter is a go. Like some kids are, they have enough energy to do sports and whatnot, and then there's those kids who are conditioned and they're just go 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 busy from the minute they wake up to the 30 minutes before they go to bed, and that's kind of my daughter. So she has the stamina to do whatever all day long, and I don't even know how she does it. She'll come home and want to jump on the trampoline and show me tricks, and I'm like, how do you, like, don't you have heat stroke by now?
yeah.
And yeah, it just blows my mind. But then there are some kids on her team who are definitely not conditioned the same way she is, and you can tell in those late day games where they're not the same player they were earlier in the day. So they
That's
struggled.
amazing.
Yeah. Yep,
Okay.
but they still got to get a finalist medal for being in the finals. They got to celebrate, that is still a success, and so yeah, it
Well,
was
you're
a
a good
lot good.
daddy.
Yeah, thank you. And my wife's in Miami on a work conference, so I was rolling solo this
Yeah.
weekend. But yeah, my daughter was like, "If we win, can I get ice cream afterward?" And I was like, "Hun, you can get ice cream afterward even if you don't win. Like, that you don't have to win to get a reward
Yeah.
from me for working hard. Like, yeah, you still get to celebrate." So I was thinking
That's
about that.
outstanding. Good for you.
Yeah,
Well, maybe I'll have ice cream in her honor later today.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah,
So, shall we switch gears and talk about the topic of the day?
yeah. What's in store? I mean, we're still on this what do you want to call it? Campaign, crusade, mission, Metacrisis.
Yes, and it's a hornet's nest. Oh,
Right.
the more I delve into it, the deeper it goes.
Yeah.
You know,
No doubt.
Lord have mercy for the people that haven't watched before. I'll do a thumbnail sketch of what we've said. Does that work for you, Nick?
Yeah. Yeah.
Helps me too to orient the meta crisis that we've been talking about. Is what preoccupies me a lot of the time. I think about it every day, and I can say that I'm kind of adjusting to the light, so to speak. You kind of walk into a room and you start seeing things.
Mm,
It's what is being called the meta crisis is um, the series of crises that are confronting the world.
mm-hmm.
So there's wealth inequity. More and more resources and wealth are concentrating in fewer and fewer hands. And it's not just in America, but it's around the world. And it's the worst that it's been since the 1920s.
Mm,
So more and more people are finding themselves really struggling. And this is kind of beyond political parties, although one party is much better than the other in terms of addressing it.
yeah.
Um, there is mental health crisis, more and more suicide, more and more depression.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that are struggling.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just with grief over loss. It's because it's more like more of a chronic, long term thing. Um, the shootings in schools, I lump into that category.
Yeah.
There's social media manipulation, so that you've got. I'll never forget some guy, uh, QAnon or 4chan or whatever it was saying that Hillary Clinton had a sex ring going on in a pizza restaurant
Oh,
alley,
yeah. I heard about that. The pizza
and
thing.
he showed up there in this particular pizza restaurant to confront Hillary Clinton. Oh, and the conspiracies are just whack. Remember a couple years ago, people were thinking that JFK son, what was his name, John Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
that he had survived the airplane crash and that he was going to appear at Dealey Plaza,
Oh,
and they were all present for it. There's a lot of people up for that.
yeah.
Okay, so there's social media manipulation. Um, there is environmental degradation.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I talked about planet boundaries. And if you surpass, I forget if there's 7 or 9 of them, but if you surpass the danger zone of one, humanity's survival is in danger, and we've now surpassed 6. I think it's 6 out of 9.
Mm.
Oof.
Yeah.
We went through all those different danger zones, and one of them was pollution. And it sounds kind of almost quaint. And then, that day I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, pollution. There's oil slick the size of Rhode Island in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
You know, the fires, the hurricanes, um, soil erosion also sounds kind of quaint. Like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna run out of dirt. No biggie. Is there? Is that a biggie? Until
Right.
you realize that crops depend on quality soil, and when you don't have it, then the food
Yeah.
starts to taste weaker and weaker, and you can grow less and less of it.
Yeah. We talked about, was it ocean temperature as well? Yeah.
Ocean temperatures,
Yeah.
which throws off the currents.
Mm.
Which this week they're talking about with the current is a warming thing for Europe, and that as the currents are getting thrown off, Europe's going to drop in temperature dramatically
Oh, wow.
over a 50-year span, but it starts now. You
Yeah.
know, and birds are having a hard time migrating because they're thrown off by differing currents in the air. Uh, oh, stuff like that. And it goes on. There's education crisis. I have a friend that's been heavily involved with Milwaukee Public Schools. I'm not going to say anything that could get me in hot water, but suffice it to say that, well, I had a friend that was a professor at the
Uh-huh.
University of Kentucky,
Okay.
and he said to me, this was 20 years ago. He was an English professor, great guy. May he rest in peace. But he said, "Yeah, John, when the kids get to me in their freshman year of high school, freshman year of college, they haven't been taught anything."
Oh.
You know, and that's not literally true of everybody, but it was just such a thing. He said, you know, they're squeaking through on some math and some history, but in terms of quality education, he just wasn't seeing it in the state of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, I mean, I feel like there's things that used to be taught that now there's attempts to sort of disprove or discredit what we, you know, used to see as this is classic education of history. And it's, you know, what's science anymore? You know, the pandemic really showed us what people, how easily people can be swayed to believe misinformation. And,
right,
you know, there's people, such an increase in people who, I think there's a lot of good that comes from people who choose to homeschool and do homeschooling responsibly. But then there's a good population of folks who don't want indoctrination into, you know,
right.
certain, you know, more broad views, you know, more diverse opinions, and so they're choosing to do that because they don't want that, and it's almost a sheltering sort of um, attempt, because they don't want those views, they don't want those influences, and I think that definitely is going to affect the ability for people to accept and view and collaborate with diverse viewpoints. You know, so yeah,
Yes,
we have a comment here. Cats Up says, I view our world, not just in the US, as being terribly underserved with mental health care. Stigma. A crying shame. We are no more to blame for mental health than we are to blame for. Oh, I got this button that's here. I don't know why it's in my way. Um, let's see if I can just pull it on. Here, let's show it right there. Uh, no more to blame for mental health than we are to blame for cancer. Good point.
amen. Cats up.
Yeah.
I don't know who Cats up is. Do you?
No, just someone who's tuned in and watching today. So thank you for tuning in, Cats Up.
Thank you. We appreciate your involvement with us. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So yeah, absolutely. You know, stigma. I mean, there is so much stigma, and then you know it's hard enough to battle stigma when you're also battling armchair experts and misinformation. Misinformation.
Right.
People
Right.
tend to lean towards an anecdotal viewpoint versus evidence based. And that's a big term in my world. And nursing is evidence based practice. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the education thing. I'm going to do a little political thing, and I don't want like to be too political here, but I'm just gonna go there for a minute here. We have a candidate who has 34 felony counts
Mm-hmm.
guilty. His company has felony for fraud. He's been
Mm-hmm.
adjudicated guilty in a civil court for rape.
Mm.
He took over 100 actions against the environment in his first presidency, and he's been impeached twice. And yet, people are still considering voting for him.
Yeah.
He's a sociopath, and has a viable candidacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just stepping away back from the fray of us against them, and
Right.
et cetera, like that. Just to look at that with some degree of objectivity, it's like, what? How did we get there? How
Yeah.
did we get there?
That is truly alarming. I mean, all political stuff aside, when I think about what is really truly sad in our times is that the vast majority of us are, I mean, we're talking 95% of us are in a small, in a good section of a Venn diagram where we all overlap. And if we were not so divisive, we could all come together and say, yeah, these are not the qualities of a good person, let alone a person who should lead us. Um, and so that is hard. But then, I do have to accept the reality that there are people um, who do want less government involvement, and they see this person as a bucking of the system, of a shakeup, that they're asking for, and that don't feel heard and don't feel seen. So I do think
Yeah,
that's a cause and effect of generations of you know giving some people not a platform, or what they perceive to be the feeling of being heard. So we've created that ourselves at the same time as it's outrageous that this person. So yeah, I want to point the finger and say, there's this tyrant, of course, because when you look at that person on paper, it's awful, and yet how is it that so many people can still view it? It's
yeah,
sad that they would put aside those values just for the sake of having a little bit of them represented, not the whole them.
right.
Yeah,
So,
crazy.
I totally concur with what you have just said. Important, and then so that's the meta crisis, and I view it as there is something wrong with us upstream of what is happening um, downstream with all of the. There's something not wrong with us. That's not the phrase I want to use. There's something off kilter. There's something um, dysfunctional um, with the human race that this has all evolved.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's what I'm spending the rest of my life thinking about, really.
Hmm.
And how do we improve on it? How do we navigate the meta crisis and regenerate wholesome, holistic thing? So holistic health. So what we've talked about, I given a thumbnail sketch as one way of addressing this is um, this little schema that I didn't come up with. A guy named Dustin DePerna came up with, but it's kind of making its way around. Wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. And the depths of that. Are you typing it in?
Yeah.
I saw you starting to type. And we talked about each one in a thumbnail sketch. And we are on week 3 of talking about waking up. And the first um, thing to say about that is that we wake up from the illusion of of our autonomy and independence from one another. Yes,
Hmm.
there is that to some in some reality. For instance, I'm the only person that got up this morning and made breakfast and fed the cats at this address. You know, I didn't have anybody else to do it. You know, um, outside of beloved Mary, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but just the two of us. But we are so interdependent. You know, if you think about, we needed at least 2 people to be born.
Hmm.
Our neighborhood, our school, our spiritual training, if we had any, um, ongoing school, partners at work, you know, all of the cooperation it takes for you to get into your car and drive to work. You know, the creation of a car, the provision of fuel, you know, elevators functioning, you know, food has to be delivered to your house, you know, or at least to the grocery store. There's farmers involved. Um, we're massively intertwined and interwoven with one another,
Yeah.
and we have to wake up to that.
Hmm.
Um, yes, there is some competition, but there's also room for massive amount of cooperation. And cooperation means not only with other humans, but with animals and with the landscape.
Hmm.
So, um, we are all interwoven, includes animals, the non human animals,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one part of waking up. Another part that we did last week was a sense of gratitude,
Yes.
or last time we met. And gratitude is highlighted in a beautiful way by the Native American Thanksgiving prayer,
Yes.
which we read last time.
Uh-huh.
People
The
that want
Mohawk
to,
tribe, the Haudenosaunee. Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
Hudasani,
The
Hudanasani,
Thanksgiving address, the Thanksgiving address. That was great.
yes, which I have posted on Facebook uh, Thanksgiving Day because of the Pilgrims killed the Indians after the dinner. But
Mm.
you know, you can acknowledge that and still say, and yet let us have a practice of Thanksgiving. People who haven't seen it, did you put it? Did you type it out last time?
The last time I put
Or,
it in the comments of our last episode, episode 11. It
yeah.
is in the description of the episode 11. I do have a link to the Thanksgiving address to the natural world. So yeah,
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
yeah,
Then Joanna Macy, her book, I have that one here. It's called Pass It On. It's in
yeah,
there.
yep. We got a link in
And
the episode on that. Yep.
great. And if people want to look at it elsewhere, what's her name? Robin Wall Kimmerer, a Native American author, wrote a beautiful book called Braiding Sweetgrass. And it's in there too.
Okay.
Really beautiful. Um, this week, we're going to move on to another thing.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am. Yeah.
Now that we're half an hour in. But we had to get people caught up.
Yeah. No. 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 It's good to keep us on task, but also recap. I mean,
Right.
it's evolving material. I mean, we're not You know, we don't curate this and come in with a it's a natural conversation, not a lecture series. So yeah.
Well said. I love it. Natural conversation, not a lecture series. That's beautiful. I'll go with that. All right. So this next thing is also from that Joanna Macy book. I've heard it before, but I just read this little book, 110 pages. Pass it on. Light. And this is, I've got a two-part presentation. This is part one. This little thing. She says that the Tibetans have this. So the book has her in one chapter. She's in Russia, talking to people who have been living in the territory contaminated by Chernobyl.
Okay.
She also is in Australia. She's in a reservation in Native America, a Native American reservation, I should say. She's with the Aborigines in Australia, and then she's in Tibet for, I think it's two of the chapters. In one of the chapters, she's talking to a guy who says part of his waking up practice. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't say that, but we're utilizing it that way.
Right.
Is to remember that, and we don't have to believe this literally, but we can go with it imaginatively.
Mm-hmm.
Every living being, because of the eons and billions of years of life that has existed, every living being was at one point your mother, and now is reincarnated as, the cashier at the grocery store.
Mm.
Okay. So our scientific Western minds reject this, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna believe that on a literal basis myself, but it is something to really have fun with and work with.
Yeah.
And just think about how it could transform you if you had this as a regular practice.
Okay.
So I read this thing, and she talks about her own experience. Was she was told this, and I'm going to have some tea here just a second. My throat was drying out. She's talking about she heard this, and then she was on a path in northern India near the Tibet border, and she saw a elderly man carrying. I don't know if you've seen pictures of northern India and Tibet where
With the
uh,
Sherpas?
yeah, maybe not exactly a Sherpa, but it was an older man carrying. Is that a Sherpa?
Your connection did a little fuzzy thing for a second, right as you were saying that description.
Oh,
Um,
it's an elderly man carrying 100 pounds of sticks on his back.
oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so or 200 pounds,
Wow.
and she's walking along, and her usual reaction is to, in her mind, denounce the economic structure, which requires an elderly man to carry 200 pounds of sticks on his back. But on this occasion, she paused and she entered into the idea this could be my mother
Mm.
from a million years ago, reincarnated now. And she stepped into it as an imaginative practice, and her heart broke,
Oh.
you know. And she wanted to see the face, and the guy was hiding his face. He didn't want the face to face encounter,
Mm.
which was all the more poignant,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and so she, um, we have memes on Facebook now and etc. that say things like, "Please be patient with people. You don't have no idea what they're going through."
Yeah.
right? Nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice meme. I like it. But
Yeah.
this one takes it much further. That could be your mother from a million years ago,
Yeah.
imaginatively,
Hmm.
not literally. Although, what do I know? Um, but
Right.
so I tried this.
Okay.
I was at a bagel store. Do you have Bruegels and Einsteins out by you?
We do have some Einsteins, not in my particular city, but out west coast, we do have some Einstein bagels. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if this was a Bruegels or an Einstein's, but it was one of the two. It's a bagel fast food kind of
Yeah.
place. It feels like Starbucks in a sense that you go in there and it's kind of a nice, it's kind of a nice vibe in there.
Kind of hipsterish. Yeah.
Slightly-ish, yeah. Although I'm in there, so what do we?
Fake it till you make it.
What?
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Exactly. So I go in there and I'm just thinking about this, and I'm thinking, okay, so this cashier, heavily tattooed, heavily pierced, there's your hipster thing, is my mother from a previous millennium.
Yeah.
Ah, it really had a powerful impact on me.
Really, really. What
It
went
did.
through your head when you had that?
My heart tongue was tugged. My
Okay.
heart was tugged. I was like, oh. And so then I was like, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you getting me a bagel.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate my brother over here slicing the bagel and then also giving me a tin full of cream cheese. And it just felt on a different level.
Yeah.
I just felt like the power of the experience was such that I then turned around and there was the melancholy 10 people on their on their Macs and their Hewlett
Oh,
Packards,
right.
with the earbuds
Yeah. Yeah.
and isolated from each other, and a solemnity and a weightiness to the presence. Right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I felt oh, this is like my family reunion for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Everybody here.
Yeah.
There's mom uh, dishing out the bagels and taking our money. Incidentally, I always get kind of pissed off at like a Starbucks when you buy for it and they ask for a tip. I'm like, a tip for you to pour me a coffee, and I give one, but it just seems kind of like. Eh. And on this occasion, I gladly gave the tip.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
have always given the tip when they ask, but I
Yeah.
was much more lubricated to the idea. I feel
Yeah.
like Starbucks and them should pay their people, so a tip isn't necessary. But
Yeah.
um, that's off the topic.
So,
Um, go ahead.
all right. So, couple thought like I tend to yes, and agree with all of that.
Yeah,
And I tend to also look at the other part of it. So we're a series of whatever you want to call it. This idea of rebirth. Let's explore this,
yeah,
and at whatever level you want to call it. So maybe we just say it's a soul that's rebirthed, and you're talking about a soul that was a generations past
yeah,
ancestor to you, that kind of thing. And this soul today is in your presence as this being. And I feel like it's very humbling in that it's this rise and fall of man. What may have been a millennia ago tribal leader, call it mother,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, distant ancestor, that soul of that person is being reformed and part of another being, and is now present in front of you as a service worker, where they may have been at the peak of their societal um, status, and now they're of much more of a lower income, lower socioeconomic status. They're in a servant position, um, and it's just interesting because a part of me is like, okay, you can empathize, but also it's humbling to see that we're only a few generations of our soul embarking on this path of being either the leader of a nation or a potentially a homeless person. Um, but I definitely think this idea and the exercise and the purpose is really another way of us to get to that point of empathizing with others who really don't, who may or may not live in our same world but are still here, and yeah. um and then I would also challenge the idea of not to pity them, but to celebrate this step in their journey, right? So it's like, oh, it may appear as you have fallen, but maybe you have just transcended through these rebirths through different avenues, and you're like, you know what? I've seen all the glory. I've had all the greatness. I've done this. I've done that. I want simple. I want simple.
yeah,
Want to have a low key existence, and yeah, I, it's kind
yeah.
of like saying I want to
That's
come back. I want to come back as a bird, or I want to come back as a dog because dogs are awesome. Pets are awesome. Cats are awesome. Birds are awesome. But it is a way simpler, easier. Yeah, there's the fear of predator prey, all that. But um, so if you thought, yeah, I've seen all the different lives, I've lived many lives as a human. I want an easy one. I want this one. So maybe it's not all that bad. Maybe there's nothing to feel sad about
oh
because
yeah, right.
this is
Yeah, yeah,
it's the happy medium
right.
where
Yeah.
they
I
want for
didn't
not too much.
feel.
And yeah,
What is
they're
that?
not impoverished, and the needs are being met, and they can, yeah. So anyway,
I like it.
that's where my mind was going with that little exercise. But
That's
also, like you said, it had a profound impact when you took that into a public space and you saw all these people differently. Now, definitely sad when you look around at this coffee shop or this bagel place, and you're like, everybody's so disconnected.
yes.
And on the other hand, without these advancements in technology, the question I have is, would they be spending this much time patronizing this business and hanging out in it? Or would they be moving on to their office where they have to do their work? Or would they be moving on to, would they be spending as much time congregating in this space, um, collaborating possibly like they might be doing online? I don't know. So it's hard to say. They're not. I mean, it's interesting
100%.
to see a crowded place with in what looks like nobody present with one another in this physical space. But then the question is, would they be in this physical space for such amount of time if they weren't able to be connected to whatever it is that they're doing electronically or digitally? I don't know.
Yeah, probably not because yeah,
But I
because
mean, it's still part of a growing problem, this disconnection of people being in these public spaces.
yeah, and disenchantment and isolation and
Yeah, yeah. All right, what do we got here? Cat's up. Um, I believe in the concept of contract. We contract before birth for the life that will give us the experiences we need to evolve. It could be that the service worker is, oh, let's see if I can get this up here all the way. Where is it? It could be that the service worker is experiencing and our let's see. If we view a person we encounter as possibly our mother reincarnated, does that hopefully make us more compassionate? Is it about connectedness? I believe in the concept of contract. We contract before birth for the life that will give us the experiences we need to evolve. It could be that the service worker is experiencing and then it looks like our comment is cut short. These comments online, they don't give, I think they're limited to the number of characters. So
Oh,
if Catsup has a follow up to that, then I'll put it up here as well.
thank you, Cats Up.
Yeah.
The first part was absolutely the point of why I'm sharing it. It did evolve, not into a sense of sympathy for the fallen uh, service worker, because for all I know, she's in medical school and putting her way through, or
Yeah.
whatever. She's
Yeah. Right.
100% happy for what she's doing. Um, but it did have a sense of heart to heart. I felt, I felt the maternal vibe. I felt the vibe of son, that I was the son. It
Uh-huh.
was activated for me. Health
Yeah.
issue or questions about their sexuality, just as examples.
So, yeah. So it could be that the service worker is experiencing a health issue or questions about their sexuality, just as examples. Their job could be the smallest part of their present. Absolutely.
100% cats up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that's important. Um, I think there's definitely a shift where and we're going to age each other in our groups here respectively to the boomer and the gen X, Z, Y, millennial, whatever the heck it is now. And there's definitely this big shift between my occupation is a big definition of who I am versus my occupation is a piece of my life. I see that when I look at uh, my mother's generation and generation, my grandparents' generation, of that emphasis of I have to put in all this work because how I'm perceived and what my profession is, how it's perceived is what defines me.
Right.
And there's been this shift away from, yeah, that's just, this is what just affords me to do the travel that defines me. This is just what I do so I can, put my kid through preschool, and I'm a devoted mother or father or whatever. It's this idea of this thing serves my bigger purpose. This isn't my purpose. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
My family, my upbringing was all about defining yourself by your profession.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as a boomer myself, I did grow up with that. And you have that at the high school reunion type of thing, but I never really bought into it.
Yeah.
I just was too countercultural.
Yeah.
But anyway, um, so I want to go on to the second part of this. We don't have time for me to give it as a full presentation, which I'll hold off until next week, then 2 weeks from now.
Okay.
But I will talk about it a little bit. So I mentioned that there's this book that I just read, "The Science of Enlightenment" by Shenzhen Yang,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's like 9 chapters that I dug, and there's 2 chapters that were over my head. But what he keeps coming back to, what he's distilled after all this stuff and all this, is that when you meditate, to do 3 things. I was like, oh, this is so. Why didn't somebody tell me this when I was 22? Um, you develop your concentration muscles. You concentrate. You focus. That's 1. 2, You develop sensory clarity. In other words, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I
Mhm.
seeing? Those three in particular. But you can also, what am I smelling? What am I hearing? What am I tasting?
Mhm.
Presumably not much tasting if you're meditating. Um, and how am I thinking about what I'm experiencing? And then equanimity, which is
Mhm.
what I've been doing. I'm sitting there meditating an hour a day these days, and you know, it's been the case that 40 minutes in, 42 minutes in, 44 minutes in, my habit for a couple of years has been, "Ooh, this will be nice when this is over. Let's hurry up and get this over with." How much time is it? Oh, 15 minutes. Let me gut this out.
Yeah.
Who doesn't relate to that? Um, and so now equanimity, he says, breathe equanimity into your sensations that you're focused on. So I'm just feeling equanimity about my pain in my back. I'm feeling equanimity about the fact that I'm suddenly in a hurry to get this over. Look at this being, this mind body connection that is named John Hughes, sitting here doing this, and the feelings and the sensations and the thoughts and the squirming and the lack of focus that have come on to you in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Breathe equanimity into it. And it's just getting to the point now where it's really working. And so that um, all of a sudden the timer goes off. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even know that time was passing. Um, so because of this book, I've made this progress. Now I'm putting this um, process to work on this other practice of envisioning someone as your mother from a million years ago.
Yeah.
So there's the bagel service worker. Thanks to Cats Up for coming up with the phrase service worker. I forgot about that one. Then there's the cashier at your grocery store. There's the person we order food that comes delivered to our door. Do you have that
Yeah,
rather
we
than
do that
grocery?
sometimes. Yeah, yeah. Meal kits. Yeah.
Yeah. So that this person comes, pulls their car up to the driveway, comes out and puts it on our door.
Hmm.
Um, and to look at that person through the window and think that's my mother from 600,000 years ago.
Hmm.
Now to take this practice, um, this meditation practice, and to put that into a meditation mode on the mother. So I hold the bagel service worker in my concentration. I just look at her and just think that's my mother. What's the sensory um, reality that's coming up? Ah, there's a feeling of tenderness.
Yeah.
Not for necessarily for, don't get me wrong, for the service worker per se, but
Yeah.
for my mother manifesting as this.
Hmm.
My biological mother this go round died when I was 6, so perhaps it registers with me on a deep level more than it might with some other people. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Um, and then um, to concentrate and to hold that thought, right? So it's not just a passing thought or like a hors d'oeuvre of a thought,
Hmm.
like, oh, that's kind of a nice little nugget of thought, but to just hold it
Right.
and then to say, what's coming up for me? This, and this. And then to breathe equanimity into it. And in terms of the Metacrisis, how can this possibly make any difference?
Yeah.
Because it's upstream of where all these problems are manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a sense of compassion, um, and openness that's more widespread than our habitual selves might have.
Yeah.
At least it does for me.
Yeah. And you know, I think Cats Up, thank you. And again, in your comment, make us more compassionate. Is it about connectedness? And absolutely, absolutely does.
I love Cats Up speaking up, whoever that is. Please do it again. I always like it when people interact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Were you going to
Yeah.
say something?
Oh, I was just, in terms of this greater idea of the meta crisis, and like you kind of hit it there. Where you're like, well, in all of this going on, what can I do? What is my part? And going back to the, um, wake up, grow up, clean up, show up. Um, it can seem like a lot, or as I think I've said before in the past conversations, this exercise in futility, like, this momentum is there. What's going to stop it? Um, but as a collective group of as a hive of humans, um, we can all do this little bit to, maybe for you it's the viewing this person as a mother reincarnated from, whatever it may be, hundreds of years ago. Seeing that person in really in a humanizing, connected way that says we're more connected than I realize, and if I take it to the extreme of, like, they could be my mother, or my mother from a millennia ago. Um, that's one, and that's
If
a good
our
accomplishment.
viewers are working the process of cultivating Thanksgiving and cultivating this sense of maternal compassion with everybody, while also keeping their eye on the realities of the meta crisis, all this deep, deep, deep problematic stuff in the human race,
Yeah,
they could live a life that's very worthwhile. I
little
mean, not to say that they aren't already, but I
speed with
mean just to enhance the worthwhileness,
yeah,
to enhance the element of worthwhileness.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a way to navigate it.
absolutely, yeah, it is. Lots of navigate it. If there's anybody tuning in, what helps you to kind of navigate your life,
That's
this
beautiful.
this growing burden of the world, that connection a little bit, maybe. Oh, um, what helps the rest of our viewers with connecting with those around you in a way that's, compassionate. This disconnect at a crisis of, you know yeah, it sometimes can feel like doom and gloom. Just, and how do we the bigger.
Our connection's a little bit off here.
Yeah, it looks like my connection is a little sour.
Are you on now? It
I
looks
am
like you are.
I am here. It looks like I'm having a little latency in my connection. So
Latency in your connection. Okay.
yeah, that's what when I hover my cursor over the little health of my connection, that's what it tells me.
Okay. All right then. Can't have that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next time that we meet, we're going to move on to wake up to the next part.
Okay.
Clean up. Clean
Sounds
up.
good.
Ooh wee.
All right.
That's a big one.
Well, sounds fun. Um, it looks like we uh, Catsup had to leave, so we're down to just the one other viewer. Um, but yeah, next time we'll tackle in jump into that. Definitely appreciate the viewer contributions and chat today, and we'll continue to engage as long as we have the comments and the viewers here live. And um, we'll get that next live session posted out there as soon as we can. And just stay tuned if you want to. There's a little subscribe. You can be notified when that is posted and ready to sign on and join us. Thank y'all for coming. All
Please
right.
do.
Take care, John.
Yeah, you too, Nick.